at CVP, a sponsored program of the Masons Enterprise Center at George Mason University. My name is MJ, and I'm here to get the webinar started. To cut down on background noise, please use good virtual meeting etiquette and try to keep your microphones muted so that everyone can hear the presentation. However, if you have a question at any point during the meeting, you can type your question into the Q&A box, and we will periodically present your question to Bob when there's a pause in the presentation. We'll stop throughout the presentation to answer questions, but it may not be right away. So please type your questions with enough context so that the instructor can follow up afterward as needed if you don't get them addressed during class. And so now we wanted to learn more about our audience today, and to do so, we're going to take a quick poll. Please select your response from the options provided on your screen. Where is the poll button? Looks like my poll has been enabled, so we'll go ahead and skip the poll at this time and try to get that done later in the session. At the very end of our session today, when you sign off, there'll be a special drawing to receive free group counseling on what we reviewed today. A handful of clients will be selected, and so if you're interested, simply fill out the group counseling evaluation form and you'll automatically enter your name. And now I'm going to introduce our speaker, Bob Rogers. Bob started and ran a government contracting business for 30 years, which he sold in 2015. He was number 250 of Inc. magazine's top 500 rankings of the fastest growing privately held companies in the United States. He's won over $100 million in government contracts, and WSI Digital Solutions is his fifth business. He has a BS in engineering from the United States Air Force Academy, an MBA from Washington University in St. Louis, Missouri, and is an OPM graduate of Harvard Business School. He was also the Dean of Business for Stratford University and an adjunct professor at Northern Virginia Community College. Bob will be speaking today until 2 p.m., and I will turn it over to him now.
Great. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are. Thank you, MJ, for that wonderful introduction. Welcome to Mr. Rogers' Digital Neighborhood. I'm Bob Rogers, and today I'll be speaking with you about the use of blogs and how to reach your target audience. Also, happy Groundhog Day. I read this morning where Puxatawny Phil emerged from his den and predicted 6 more weeks of winter. In other news, I also understand that the Washington football team has finally chosen a new name, Commanders. These groundbreaking announcements are free of charge, and you will not be added to the fee that you're paying for this webinar. However, seriously, I would like to say that February is Black History Month, and as a veteran, a business owner, and obviously an African American, I hope you'll join or attend one of the many events celebrating the African American heritage this month. Finally, I'd like to express my appreciation to the Virginia SBDC for the opportunity to speak to you today. And as MJ said, I will stop periodically to answer questions. Please put your questions in the Q&A box, and I'll answer them throughout the course of the presentation. Okay, so as you can see from the slide here, we're going to talk about how to create a blog. And we're going to answer the question, why should you use blogs? Then we're going to get into the details of how to create a blog. First, we're going to then define the purpose. Then we're going to learn how to write killer headlines, followed by the structured components of a blog. And finally, we're going to take some time to discuss how to use eye-catching images that make your blog stand out from others. So, next slide. So what is a blog? So we go to where everybody goes to find out a definition, Wikipedia. Wikipedia says that a blog is a type of website or a part of a website. An individual usually maintains a blog with regular entries of commentary, descriptions of events, or other material such as graphics or video. Websites usually display entries in reverse chronological order. In other words, if you have a list of them, typically the latest one is on top or the first one that you see. And a blog can also be used as a verb, meaning I'm blogging means, of course, that you're adding more content to your blog or you're producing another blog. Next slide, please. So it begs the question, why should you use a blog? Well, a blog is a logical first step if you want to create content. A blog can serve as your online home base for all kinds of content. The blog can become the central location where you convey your thoughts, messages, and ideas to your target audience about you and your organization. You might share different types of content, including content about a topic you understand, or you can also share others' content, which is called curated content. Curated content is an excellent way to get your feet wet before developing original content if you're new to blogging. It's certainly the way I got started in blogging. Or if, for example, you get a press release done on you, you want to share that information in a blog post. Same is true for any awards, certifications, or anything that goes on inside your professional association. Say your association is attending a conference or you're attending a conference. You may want to put a blog out there about what you saw or heard, or even before the conference, what you're looking forward to learning or doing. Next slide, please. So there are a variety of blogging platforms or content management systems available to you. This slide just shows a handful of the popular ones. Wix, WordPress, Weebly, Medium, Ghost, Blogger, and Tumblr are some of the more popular ones. They all have similar features, but they're different enough that you really need to take time and look them over before you determine which one is the best for you. So some of the key attributes in a blog site that you probably want to think about is, number one, security. How secure is your information that you're going to put out there? Secondly, the reliability of the site. Is it up, down, or is it constantly on so that you, in fact, can get and attract readers to your content? And is it popular? Is it a place where, based on the subject matter that you want to discuss, other people of like mind also visit? And then finally, does it fit your image? Now, this is, it might sound a little fuzzy, but early in the blogging world, when blogs started really coming on stream late 2000s, before 2010, Tumblr had a lot of adult content on its site. And after Yahoo purchased them, that ended. But in fairness to Tumblr, almost all or many of the blogs had adult content on them. So it's not so much the case today, but what you want to make sure of is that you're comfortable with all of the other bloggers and the kind of content that they have on there. Particularly, you want to be sensitive to whether or not you want to be on a blog that has certain political information or certain scientific information or certain information about the pandemic or whatever issues are of concern to you. You want to make sure that other bloggers out there aren't attracting audiences that are not in your target market, which we'll talk a little bit about later. Now, you'll see the last one I have down there is LinkedIn. That's very cool because LinkedIn has the advantage of being both a blog site and a social media platform. So a lot of bloggers, including myself, choose this platform because it gives them more visibility than just a standalone blog. Next slide, please. Okay, so here are your components of the blog that we're going to take a deep dive into. So the first thing is you need to define your purpose, and we're going to talk you through a purpose statement. Then you want to be able to write killer headlines. Killer headlines means, you want to attract attention. Then you're going to get into the structure of a blog. How do you actually structure and write a blog that is appealing to other people? And then finally, we're going to talk about the role of eye-catching images and how they help you with your blog. Now, please note that these first three topics on this slide are actually three workshops that we'll be giving later this month. I'll say a lot more about this subject at the end of the presentation and give you dates and titles, but the first three are very important. Next slide, please. So let's get into defining your purpose. So the most important part of writing a blog is to define your purpose. It's actually defining your purposes can be used in a lot of things, writing a business plan, writing a marketing plan, planning a trip, whatever. You got to know why it is you're doing what you're doing. The key is to make sure that you have correctly identified your target audience. If you understand your audience and your competitors, you need to focus on why you're creating the blog and what you're trying to achieve when you write it. If you're a business entity, nonprofit, educational institution, you should be writing content that's relevant to that audience. Moreover, you should learn to who else is writing to your audience. You're not the only person that's writing to your audience, believe me. You may think you are, but there are many people who are targeting your audience, no matter who you are. Lastly, you want to talk about your goals and your metrics for your blog. How do you track? What kind of metrics do you want to look at? And you want to make sure you get good feedback on your content so that you'll understand whether or not what you wrote resonated with your audience. Next slide, please. So, purpose statement. Let me give you an example. The purpose of my blog is to educate my audience about the importance of networking to their businesses. The main goal is to show the reader that networking is a series of steps that anyone can learn. I will not sell my services on the blog, but the blog will be on my website or on my social media platform, where they can find more information about networking and digital marketing. I hope to get 100 views and 5 reactions. Reactions are likes or shares to my blog. So this is a full and complete purpose statement. And what we're going to do next is talk about a template for writing such a statement. Next slide. So here's your template. The first sentence shows that you want to educate your target audience. However, time does not permit us to go into a complete discussion of your target audience. But your target, in real microcosm, your target audience consists primarily of 3 different types of people or entities. Your customers, your prospects, people that your customers and your people are you're doing business with, your prospects, people that you want to do business with, and influencers who are in your market. These are people who may or may not be, or probably not, going to be your clients, but they are of such they have such stature, either as bloggers, either as authors, writers, or just local business people who many people respect, that people watch what they do and they say. So if you're going to discuss, analyze, or have any other purpose in your blog, make sure you use it in this first sentence. The sentence ends with the subject of the blog. The subsequent sentences discuss the outcome I wish to accomplish with my blog. My purpose statement adds that I am not trying to sell my services in my blog. You have to write this down to repeat this and say it to yourself, because the worst thing you can do on a social media post or a social media blog or anything else associated with a blog is to act like a salesperson. People will click that off immediately. They get enough sales as it is. However, information that educates them, makes them feel like they're learning something, that's the stuff that they're going to read. So finally, I established metrics I wanted to obtain after posting the blog on the internet. If you do not achieve your goals to begin with, please don't despair. If you're new to blogging, you may consider setting goals after you make a few posts. It takes practice and a lot of work to write blogs with high engagement rates consistently. I know I've been doing it for several years and it took a long time before mine took. However, once they take, believe me, the return on investment is amazing. So I'm going to stop right now and see if there's anybody who's got any questions in the chat. In the Q&A. Put your questions in the Q&A, and then we're going to reserve the chat for giving you back information if you need it. So do I have any questions?
Yes. The first question was if the transcript for this webinar will be sent out to the participants, and the answer is yes. They'll also be sending the recording. And the second question for you, Bob, from John Craig, he says, we live in a time of explosive political conflict. If some of the content on our blog is, for example, progressive politically, what can we do to give our blog stronger technical protection from possible political hacker attacks?
Wow. That is quite a question. To be honest with you, I don't know how anybody, and we have clients that have had cyber attacks on their content, and they're just average everyday business owners, and they don't have a political agenda that's out there for anybody to attack. So if you're going to put content out there that is in fact going to attract people who don't agree with your comment, I don't know what protection you can have. I don't know that anybody is 100% safe on the internet. I don't know whether that answers your questions or not. Clearly, there are people in this industry that make their living off of protecting data, and they're outside consultants. Someone's typing, so I can hear that. So there are consultants out there who spend their every day figuring out how to protect your data, and maybe they would have an answer. I'm not a technical guy, but I hope I've at least attempted to address your question. If I have not, please give me another one back.
Okay. The next question, Mary asked, you said not to sound too salesy. Is it problematic to directly suggest being contacted for more assistance in the wrap up of the blog at the end?
No, it's completely acceptable to refer people to you at the end of the blog. And in fact, later on in this presentation, we're going to show you how to use it, how to do it. It's called call to action. So when we get to the call to actions segment, make sure that I've answered your question there.
Okay. The next question, what are your thoughts on the formatting limitations on LinkedIn article posts? She says using LinkedIn temporarily to post blogs.
LinkedIn limit. Say it again. What was the first part?
The formatting limitations. I guess you can't bold or.
Yeah. Not sure you can do much about. I mean, LinkedIn is such a huge monster. Facebook for the same reasons. What do I think? I think you do the best you can under the parameters that LinkedIn has, if in fact you want to reach your target audience. We're going to talk about images later on and how this might help get around the issue that you're talking about, particularly if you're talking about a text-based issue. images are a way to get around that.
Okay, and then
Hope I've answered your question.
the next question, how long should a blog be before you think you lose the reader?
Yeah, that's a great question. Everybody asks that question. How long should a blog be? Quite frankly, some blogs, and some great blogs can be written for 250 words or less. Others are 2,000. I've written both, to be honest with you. The length really depends on the subject matter and who you're trying to reach. But if you need a number that you want to stick with, here's the number I'd give you. If you're up to 1,000 words, think carefully about what you're saying. Make sure that it's segmented, which we're going to talk about. Make sure that it reads easily, because in this day and age where people skim everything, it's not hard to hold it is hard to hold people's attention for a long period of time to read text.
Okay, next question. If my startup is focused on a very niche group, say trade associations, should my blog content be 100% focused on this niche, or should I approach with more flexibility?
Well, if you're starting out, yes, it should be 100% focused on your target market. That's starting out. Now, once you get comfortable and once you start getting a presence, and once you start getting people in your target market to respond to you, now you have carte blanche to do other things, such as mention, say, you're just write a straight blog that says, hey, I won this award, and I worked hard for it, and such and such a trade association gave it to me, and it has nothing to do with your target audience, other than your target audience saying, wow, congratulations. Also, once you get a critical mass of people following you, you can start to move away and talk about something that may be tangentially relevant to your industry. It depends on what the industry is, and something could be something about a law coming down the path, or it could be something about an industry trend. It could be all kinds of different things. But my advice is, it's hard enough to get an audience to begin with. So keep chipping away at that core center. And then once you get to the point where you think you're comfortable, then you can branch out from there. That's my advice. Okay, I'm just one person. You may get advice from someone else.
Okay, and last question, will you discuss blogging versus vlogging, especially since video is such a draw?
Yes, I don't really get in this segment about video, but the general concepts behind blogging apply to both video. They apply to podcasts, which is another form. You're going to have to use pretty much the same formats to create content in any one of those different platforms.
Okay, Bob, those were the end of the questions at this time. Do you mind if I conduct the poll now, since I have the functionality?
Sure, I'd love to see who's in the audience.
Okay. All right, we're going to go ahead and conduct the poll. So please respond by selecting one of the answers on your screen. The first question, how long have you been in business? The options are 6 months or less, a year or less, 2 years or less, or 2 or more years. Second question, how many employees do you have, including part-time? 1 to 2, 2 to 5, 5 to 10, or 10 or more. The third question is, do you use social media to communicate with your target audience? Yes or no? When was the last time you updated your website? Less than 2 years ago, less than 5 years ago, less than 10 years ago, or you haven't updated your website? And then lastly, how often did you post a blog in 2021? Either one time that year, once a month, once a week, or you haven't created a blog. Okay, we'll just leave a little bit more time for people to get their responses in. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and end the poll in 3 seconds. 3, 2, 1. I'm going to share the results. Looks like 28% have been in business for 6 months or less, and 48% for 2 or more years.
Mhm.
How many employees do you have, including part-time? 75% have 1 to 2, and 9% have 2 to 5 and 5 to 10. 69% use social media to communicate with their target audience, and 31% said no. And the last time they updated their website, 68% said less than 2 years ago, 5% said less than 5 years ago, 2% said less than 10 years ago, and 26% haven't updated their website. And how often did they post a blog in 2021? 11% said one time that year, 22% said once a month, 6% said once a week, and 62% said they haven't created a blog. Okay, well, thank you for taking part in the poll. You can get back to the presentation now.
Okay, super. That tells me a lot. Some of you are obviously advanced at this, and some of you are just at the beginning stages. So hopefully the material will cover, be broad enough to cover both spectrums. Next slide, please. Okay, so we're going to talk about the headlines, second part of the writing a blog. Writing killer headlines. Think about the last time you read something online. You read the title first before you committed to read anything else. It needs to catch your interest, especially since it's the first thing the reader sees. Here are some simple tips to make your headline stand out. Pique the reader's, first of all, pique the reader's curiosity. Make your title stand out, like, what's a dry cleaner doing on Twitter? Now, this is from Marketing Prof's Daily Fix. Being more specific about your topic can make for a great headline. Instead of writing about networking, say 5 keys to successful networking. Simplifying your subject can also be a powerful tool to convey your message. In 2005, Thomas Friedman, the Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist and author, wrote, "The world is flat." Even though the title was from the book, the concept is the same. Mr. Friedman's book explains how the forces of globalization led to the digital revolution, which have brought the world closer together. He took a very complex subject and reduced it to 4 words. That's how you win the Pulitzer Prize. Being a contrarian has been one of the most successful tactics employed by marketers. Steve Jobs' tagline for Apple, "Think Different," is considered one of the most successful ad campaigns ever launched. My favorite is to use the numbers in the title. It lets the reader know that you will give them a short list of bulleted points, and it helps you develop your content in a more precise and logical manner. Next slide, please. So here's some examples of killer headlines. I've given you 3 blogs next to their main topic on the slide. On networking, Devorah Zach is using a headline to pique your curiosity. Networking for people who hate networking. We'll talk more about Devorah's blog a little bit later. But the next one, on blogging tips, Chris Brogan uses a headline with a sizable odd number of items to catch your attention. 27 blogging secrets to power your community. If you've never heard of Chris Brogan, he is a well-known blogger in the online community. His book, Trust Agents, in 2009 was a New York Times and Wall Street Journal bestseller. He does a lot of guest speaking and is on the board of HubSpot. HubSpot to me is a big deal because I'm in this in digital marketing business, and HubSpot is the leader of inbound marketing. He does a list of 27 items you should know about blogging, but he has broken them into 3 sections. Starter moves, these are the 3 sections: starter moves, technical stuff, and bonus round. He uses light, funny style of writing to engage the reader to read the whole blog. He even has a funny image at the beginning of the blog to catch your attention. And the last one, how to raise money for your company, is Guy Kawasaki's specialty. He wrote 2 books, Art of the Start and Art of the Start 2.0. I've read both books, and he always uses humor in his writing. He's a very funny guy. He's also a very funny speaker. He chose to use the contrarian strategy to try to raise too much money to start your business. The title sounds like an oxymoron, but in his blog, he convincingly takes the reader through 6 reasons why it's not a promising idea to have too much money to start your business, which is really counterintuitive to me, but he does it. He has a great background to speak on this subject because he's been a venture capitalist, an author, and a speaker for over 20 years. And before that, he worked directly for Steve Jobs as his chief evangelist for Apple Computer. So each author has a different background and subject matter, but all 3 designs are designed to have headlines that make you stop and read their content. That's the similarities in all 3 of them. I suggest you read these blogs to give you examples of how to write excellent content to post on the internet. Next slide, please. So I'm going to take you through some templates that will kind of prompt you to think about how to write headlines. So now I'm going to use Ann Handley in her book, Content Rules, which was written about 10 years ago. But the lessons about writing blogs are still sound. Her book contains a template for writing blogs, which I use in this presentation. You can visit www.contentrulesbook.com/extras to find all of her templates that she lists. You should spend a lot of time on the name of your blog. It's important to capture the audience's attention. Once you find the headline you want, you may decide to change a name. There's nothing wrong with changing the name of your content in a blog. This is a creative process. And if you're working with others to create content, make sure you have the patience and the understanding to accept new and innovative ideas. That's, quite frankly, one of the most difficult things to do when you're working with others, because other people have opinions, and you got to be open. This is really a creative type thing. And by the way, if you're by yourself, try to find a group of people to reach out to read your blogs, read your headlines before they go out. I always do that, because if you don't get their reactions from your friends, you never really know what you're going to get out in the on the internet. So this is the second section. I'm going to take a quick break and stop and see if we have any more questions.
This one might have been answered. It's John had asked, if you have a blog post up that you wrote in the past, is it possible to go back and correct it if it needs correcting, or go back and add something to it?
Well, John, excellent question. Not only is it, can you do it, I strongly encourage you to do it. One of the beauties, you're getting me all excited here. One of the beauties, this question is getting me all excited. One of the beauties of digital marketing, unlike the old marketing where you put ads in newspapers or ads in magazines, digital content is forever. Okay. Once you write something and put it on your platform, it's yours forever, and you can reissue it again. For example, one of the ideas I had, this is a great question. One of the ideas I had is that Franchise Magazine wrote an article about me because last February, and the feature which featured African American franchisees. So I'm thinking very strongly about taking that same article and reissuing it. Now, you also asked about, can you go in and change and update your blogs? Heck, I do it all the time. I get new information and I go back in and I change things. So this is a living, breathing thing. And most importantly, it's yours. It's yours forever. And it's yours to do with what you want to. So yes, both of those you can change and you can reuse. And they're both very, very acceptable. And the good bloggers do it all the time, all the time.
Okay. Just we had some people asking to repeat certain things. Can you repeat the content rules website?
I am going to try to put that in the chat. Copy, chat. You guys see it there?
Yep, I got it.
I should have put content rules, but you can see it. It says contentrulesbook.com/extras.
Okay. And the next thing they wanted to repeat was the Ann Hanley site.
That is the Ann Hanley site.
Oh, that is the Ann. Okay, that's the same one.
Ann Hanley wrote the book Content Rules, and the site is I mean, you can go on Amazon or anywhere. I'm not plugging Amazon, but you can go anywhere and get content, download Content Rules, and then but if you want the templates for how to write blogs and there's a whole bunch of other stuff about how to write. Ann Hanley is just a wealth of information, not just on blogs, but on writing in general. She wrote a book called Everybody Writes, which I also read, which is a fabulous document to have.
Okay. And the next question Mary asks, this may sound funny, but what about shock as an attention grabber, a tame curse word in the title and such, or is that too unprofessional?
A little mile, we'll call this off-color jargon, right? We'll call it a little off-color jargon. Is probably not a bad thing. Anything that gets your attention. A football player named Keyshawn Johnson wrote a book called, he was a wide receiver for the NFL for many years, and he wrote a book called, quote, "Just throw me the damn ball," end quote. You know, the headline, I don't know how he did in sales. I never read his book, but I remember that headline. So yeah, it's not my style, you know, but my style is not your style. So whatever it is that you think will sell, you need to be careful, of course, about, you know, how far you want to go, but a little off color to get attention. Yeah, I can go with that. Sure.
Okay, and then one more question. Is there a difference between content for a blog that lives on the website and content that is emailed out as part of an email marketing campaign to your prospects?
Actually, the person that could answer that one for you the best is MJ, but since she does a good deal of email marketing for us. But let me just see if I can do some justice to her capabilities. And if I flubbed it here, MJ, please jump in and help me out. But Look, again, I'll go back to the statement that I made to you before. Digital marketing is different. Once you create content, it's yours. And you can repurpose that content not only back to a blog, but you could use it on other platforms. For example, you take one piece of content and you put it on, make a blog, then you chop it up into pieces and you can make posts on your social media. You could take the subject matter and then record it and make videos. You could then record it and use it as a podcast and put it out there. Same material can be used over and over and over again. And oh yes, you can take, and this is what we do. We have 3 newsletters that we send out. We can take various social media, and this is a great thing, is that we wrote a blog, then we chop it up, we put it out on social media, and it always refers back to the website. And so we know which parts of the blog people like and which part they don't. The parts they do like, we put those in the email newsletter. And the email newsletter, and I don't have time to explain email newsletters to you. We're going to have a whole subject on this, but with an image and the right content, email is still, ladies and gentlemen, the #1 lead generator in the world, more than any other method. So yes, I hope I answered your question. Yes, you definitely can use it. I do it.
Another question. What is your recommendation for blogging in a space that the industry hasn't really taken to yet? For example, Stephanie is opening a bed and breakfast and she sees incredible blogging potential, but when she looks at the hospitality space, few are actually blogging. She asks, am I missing something?
No, you're not missing anything at all. In fact, keep at it. If you really think that you're ahead of the curve and that you are waiting for the industry to catch up with you, when they do catch up with you, guess where they put you? That makes you the #1 subject matter expert. So when I say everybody, I mean successful entrepreneurs typically arrive on the scene before the market gets there. That's how they're able to ride the wave upward. I forget, was it Stephanie who was asking the question, Stephanie? Then yeah, I would definitely keep that strategy. Hang in there. It's tough to get anybody to see anybody's blog. So if you're in a new emerging industry, it may take you a little bit longer. But great strategy. I hope I'm sure it'll work for you.
Okay, that's all the questions for now.
Okay, so we got about 15 minutes, so let me see if I can get through here. Next slide, please. All right, create a structure of a blog post. So once you have the topic and a title for your blog post, the next step is to create the structure in its content. You want to do some research before making the structure to create an exciting narrative with each post that your audience can follow. The process starts with a solid structure for your posts that readers recognize and therefore know what to expect. One of the easiest to use is the list form. It starts with an intro, then you list out the blog's main bullet points, and then you wrap it up with a firm conclusion, and lastly, a call to action, which we'll get into in a little bit here. So when I use this technique, and I use it a lot because it not only does it help, particularly with an odd number of bullet points, I start out brainstorming with all kinds of ideas. So I'll have 5, 6, 7 ideas, but I try to narrow them down to about 3 to 5, no more than 5. 5 is probably more than the reader can digest, but certainly you don't want to go over 5. And you feel, take the 3 to 5 that you feel that your audience is really interested in, and I research those. So I don't do any big research until I get down to the three to five that I really like. And then I want to make sure that I get my facts straight before I put something out there. Then I start with writing about each item. And then I don't write either the introduction or the ending until I'm happy with the main body of the blog, because the main body sets up what you're going to say in the introduction and what you're going to say in the closing. Next slide, please. So here is Dvorak's book that I was telling you about. And she wrote a blog that you can see that illustrates her book, Networking for People Who Hate Networking. It summarizes her book with the same name. She uses the contrarian style in her headline. She points out that you must learn the proper networking techniques to become a good networker. It stresses that you can be a good networker even if you're not an introvert. Excuse me, even if you are an introvert, which strangely enough, I am. I'm definitely an introvert. If you look at all the testing and stuff, I just have to turn it on when I'm on camera or any other place. But basically, there are a lot of people who don't like going to big, huge networking parties and shaking hands and giving out cards and all that kind of stuff. You know, it's like water torture for me. But if you use her techniques, she'll show you how, in fact, you can do it as an introvert. And it's really a cool book. The blog is under 1,000 words, and it used the list formula method. She breaks it into 3 sections, with each unit having 7 bullets. So she's got some symmetry. She's got a really cool writing style. So there's 21 points there, 3 sections, 7 in each. She uses the emperor penguins, which are very social birds. You know, birds typically are not all that social, but in Antarctica, I think everybody now knows what an emperor penguin is and what they have to do to survive in the frigid climate, and it requires a lot of communication. So she uses that to get your attention. And like her book, her writing is very clever and engaging. And once you start reading the blog, you have to you feel like you're reading it to the end. All right, let's go to how to make a sample blog. Okay, so here's some steps. The first is post the title. Let the readers know how the post will help them and adds an element of intrigue, okay? You know, controversy, intrigue, whatever. First sentence, your goal is to hook the reader. Ask the question, state something mildly controversial or something that might spark intrigue. And then your next paragraph, here's where you begin to answer the question you raised earlier and explain your initial statement. That's followed by your bulleted numbers. Create a list of critical subtitles or subheaders to your title. And then you get into the main body, which goes underneath these bulleted items. The body of your blog post where your readers will derive the most value. Therefore, you should choose your subheaders, which are keywords that optimize your search engines. Now, remember, we're on the internet here, guys, so we have to be mindful of and cognizant of that the search engines such as Google are crawling out there, and they're trying to figure out which content to put first and which content to put second. And the way they do that is they look at subheaders. They look at the various keywords that rank high. And if you're using those keywords, your post is going to rank a lot higher than others. And lastly, you want to include relevant images, photos, graphics to your posts. The graphics add personality and interest to your blog. Check out Google Images or Flickr. Hang on one second here, guys. I got a technical issue I got to deal with. So just hold on. Am I still on camera?
Uh, the sound, it looks like it's turned down a little bit.
The sound is turned down.
Hmm.
Can you see me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry about this, guys. I have been trying to get my IT guy to deal with this, and you know how it is trying to get IT guys' attention. Let me get my document back up here. Apologize. Hang in there with me. Okay, I'm back. All right. Sorry for the sound. I'll talk up a little bit louder. I was just finishing. What I was talking about was the last section is call to actions. Remember, I mentioned earlier that at the end of your blog, you want to make sure that you have these. And these are instructions that you want the reader to do something. You want them to provoke an immediate response. So examples include downloading or sharing the blog, posting a comment, or liking a blog. Experienced bloggers always want you to follow them. So I'm going to pause here and make sure that everything's set before I go into the last. So we've only got 10 minutes. Do we have any questions?
One was asking if you could talk a little bit more about how Google searches for keywords and what advice to help optimize that.
Yeah, Google bases Google, like any Bing or any Explorer or Edge. All of these are looking for four things. Number one, they're looking for keywords. Keywords are words that keywords or phrases that people are interested in, and there's lots of. This is a very quick synopsis. Second thing they're looking at is backlinks. That's what kind of authority you have your platform, whether it's a blog or a website or a social media. What kind of authority does that have? In other words, is it highly ranked? Uh, this all has to do with search engine optimization. Uh, they're looking, and the last thing they're looking for is keywords. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to come back to you on the third aspect. But this all comes under the category of search engine optimization, okay, SEO, and that's another webinar that we're going to be giving in this series. Good question, very good question.
There's one other standing out. She asked, how do you stand out in an oversaturated market? I have a gardening business and it seems like everyone has a gardening blog. Is that where I let my personality shine through?
Absolutely. Make sure it's the real authentic you that's behind all those blogs, not something that you think other people want to have. The only way to stand out in this world, whether you're talking about a business strategy or a blog strategy, is through the term differentiation. Now, ultimately, what you're trying to do is you're trying to make sure that your target audience understands that you are a subject matter expert. So, two ways to figure that out. Number one is to do research. If you somehow or another can write a social media question or do a email poll to find out what does your audience really want to know, or you can do it. That's called primary research. It's directly, or you can do secondary research. Secondary research is that you can go on the internet and you can look at other kinds of blogs and other kinds of things that people write about in your target market. And so from there, what you want to derive is something that's the combination of those two pieces of information. You want to derive a better blog than that's currently out there. And you know what? Using your spin is and particularly if it's funny, is really a great way to get yourself noticed in the logging world. And every, everything from plumbers to aircraft carrier manufacturers use blogs, and they all use the same techniques, and they're all trying to differentiate themselves.
Okay, those are all the questions.
Okay, we got 5 minutes. We're going to try to hit the big finish here. So, uh, eye-catching images is the next slide. I can't see the slides now, MJ, so I'm assuming we're on creating an eye-catching image.
Yes, I'm there.
Okay, why do we need images when writing a blog post on the web? Most people respond to an image rather than the text. You have a winning combination if you can capture the message you want with the images to support your text. You can use the image in several ways, including breaking up the text. Is your blog over 500 words? Try to include images that separate the text. Using images to explain a message via a picture, chart, or graph. People are visual beings, and they understand an image faster than they can read a text. Use pictures of people. Humans are partial to looking at pictures of other humans, especially when it's relevant to the topic of your blog. Finally, utilize legal images. Make sure that you pay the necessary fee for using copyrighted images. We use a service, there are several services out there. I'm not going to recommend a name. I'm just going to say find a service that's relevant to what you need and pay the fee if you're a frequent blogger. Otherwise, use um, free sites such as Google Images, which I'm not endorsing, but it is a free site that you can use to download what's called Creative Commons images. Creative Commons images are images that have permission from the creator to be used on their content. So if you want other suggestions on this, just type in the words free image sites, those three words, free image sites in your browser, and you'll get a long list. It's longer than I can go through. Okay. Next slide, please.
Okay.
So this slide shows some examples of eye-catching images. These images reflect what the story of your blog is all about. They intrigue the reader and provoke them to pay attention to the content. The images give the reader another element to capture their attention. Okay? Next slide, please. All right. These are the template. This is a template of an image. You may, unbelievably, there actually is a lot of science and art to create a blog post image. We can all create a good image with a lot of practice, but if you really want to get first-rate image, I would recommend a graphic designer create an image for you. I'm not suggesting that you absolutely need one. I didn't have one for years when I was doing my blogging to begin with. If you get to a critical stage and you want to make the next jump, that's how you would do it. These specialists have the tools and the knowledge to create great images. They use sophisticated software to develop titles with branded colors and fonts. They understand how to use contrast, like image here, which moves as you move left to right, you go from dark to light. However, the most important thing about this image is that it conveys the message that you want the reader to get. The message is, our financing can help you grow. All right. So I should have the summary slide up now.
Okay.
And so I'm just about 1 minute here, and I wanted to make sure that we summarized what we covered today. We began with what is a blog and why do we use them. We then discussed each of the significant components of creating a blog that will catch the reader's attention. First and most importantly, we discussed the purpose of your blog. We discussed the definition of the blog and why it's essential for business owners to use them. And second, we explored how to write killer headlines. And then third, we dissected the components of a good blog structure. And finally, we showed the importance of using fantastic imagery to create your blog. In our subsequent three sessions, we'll work with a group of businesses to write a blog for their company. Next slide, please.
Hmm.
If you enjoyed what you learned today, you could get personalized help in getting started. You will receive 2 forms in your email inbox when you sign off. One is a feedback survey, and the other is a group counseling form. We'd love to get your feedback on how to improve this presentation. Clearly, I would like to know how I can do what I'm doing better. And if you're interested in joining a group counseling sessions, fill out the form and someone will contact you today or tomorrow. I would not wait to sign up. I get a feeling, based on these questions, there's going to be a lot of interest in learning more about this group. Okay, question slide. So that brings us to 2 o'clock. I want to make sure to be respectful of your time. I am going to sit here and answer everybody's question for as long as it takes. But I do not want to run over. We have hit the time limit that we said we would. So,
I think we've answered most of the questions, Bob. They're just comments now, so we're
okay,
good.
Okay, so just hit the close out slide. Last slide.
Okay.
So what you see here is all of the key contact information for the SBDC and its resources on this chart. I always enjoy talking and speaking about digital marketing. However, it's a privilege when I get a chance to talk to business owners about this subject. I want you all to take care. May God bless you in your entrepreneurial journey. Take care.